Man, oh man, oh man, that was really tough to swallow. That is just a tough game to swallow. My goodness, the Sixers, they had so many chances to win this game. So many chances. They blew a large lead, an almost 20-point lead through this game going into the first half. And just everything. My goodness, this team is just it's so frustrating on so many levels because we see the energy levels when they compete, when they are going, but then when it just suddenly dies. It just suddenly dies for some reason, and I have no idea why. Like, you can fall this on Joel Embiid as well, but Joel Embiid I thought was less of the problem today because he was really the only guy that stepped up. James Harden had himself a slow start. He eventually got into the game at the end, but I still feel like I need more from Harden. I need more from other guys. I need more from George Niang. Even though, like, George Niang, he's been going off the past couple of games, I'll give him that. But this game, he was really struggling from three. Basically, the Sixers struggled for a lot of wide open looks in this game, and it was just ridiculous. But just overall, the bench. Oh my God, being outscored, what was it, 48-13? Wise, my God, just everything a lot throughout this game. The Sixers should have won this game, and this was a game where they completely stabbed themselves in the foot, and they let Denver back into the game, and they let Denver win this game. Very frustrating. But before we get into everything, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And if you are new, looking for all the latest Philadelphia sports news recaps and events, this is the place to be at. So hit that subscribe button. And also, if you are a current viewer of the channel, I am grateful for you being here that long and looking to continue that down the road. Also, if you're looking for tickets to upcoming sporting events, concerts, whatever you can think of, use the code TTP Sports down below for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. So you can use that for Sixers games to see Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey at the Wells Fargo Center. You can go if you want to see a Flyers game, if you want to put yourself through that. Go down to the Wells Fargo Center when Phillies baseball comes back. You got spring training tickets, you got opening day tickets. Get yourself some tickets to those. And also for football season when that comes back. So you can't pass that up. Free $20 in your pocket. So use the code TTP Sports today at SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. So the Sixers fall a very ugly game, 114-110. And the Sixers, the way they started this game, like, honestly, I wasn't expecting the way the way they started this game the way they did because of, the previous couple of games. The Sixers have been very accustomed to slow starts, and they got off to a great start in this game, making Jokic just uncomfortable on every place in the world. Matisse Thybulle stealing, just getting blocks, getting steals, making the entire Denver team look very uncomfortable, making them miss shots, and it was absolutely perfect. They were hitting shots too. Joel Embiid going off in the first quarter. Everything felt so good, but then once you get into the second, or honestly, once Joel Embiid gets off the court for the first time, then you get, the little momentum swing back in for Denver. And it really just showcased you in that scenario. Joel Embiid gets a couple of fouls taken as well. So he's getting up there a little bit, like 2 to 3 fouls in that first half, even though a couple of them were very soft. And the refs today were like, oof, the refs were not good. There was an obvious travel on Jokic, and they don't call that, but then they call a very soft one. I believe it was on Embiid like a couple of seconds later, or it was on James Harden. So it was just all over the court tonight. And when Joel Embiid literally getting murdered by Green at the end of the game, literally trying to get decapitated, that man should have been thrown out of the game. Literally, I don't care if you're going after the ball, you are still following through with your arm, and you are lowering it, hitting Joel Embiid in the head, and it's only a flagrant 1. That should have been in flagrant 2, and he should have been tossed out of the game, even though that has no deciding factor in the game whatsoever. Still, a little bit even on both sides, please, refs. A little bit. But this game just entirely, there were so many, like, the bench was just completely garbage in this game. And just looking at the starters for tonight's game, Joel Embiid, I thought he played very well, even though there were a lot of moments where just the entire team in general was just lacking defensively, just lacking in general. You're making Bones Highland, just leaving him wide open to where he is taking 40-foot jumpers from the logo at center court and making them. He literally went through a sequence where he hit, 3-4 threes in a row? You're letting him go off on your team. My goodness. My goodness, the way this team just sags defensively and just doesn't play the perimeter whatsoever. I'm looking at Joel Embiid going up against Highland, and he's sagging off like 50 feet. I'm like, Joel, what are you doing? This guy's consistently hitting it from deep. Block, like, defend him, make him earn his shot. Like, just don't give it to him easily. Just don't. Just don't do it. So if you look at the stats for the starters tonight for the Sixers, Joel Embiid, 34 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He had 5 fouls in this game and also 5 turnovers. He was 11 of 20 from the field, perfect from the three-point line, and he was 9 of 10 from the free throw line. James Harden, he was 1 rebound away from a triple-double, 24 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds, 6 of 11 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, so he's still struggling in these past few games from the three-point line, which is kind of concerning in my opinion. And it kind of does feel like that James Harden is forcing it a little too much, especially with the passing. I know he has 11 assists in his game, and he's going to be, constantly passing out dimes, trying to get people open. But there were so many passes in this game where it just felt like unforced errors, to where, especially at the end of the game, when you're trying, make that comeback, when you're trying to get the lead, to where you're inbounding the ball and you're forcing it to Joel Embiid, where the pass easily gets read and it gets turned over the other way. It just feels like he's forcing passes the past couple of games. And of course, everyone, all the trolls, when they come out in Sixers land, it just feels like, oh my goodness, it just feels like everything. It feels like when the Sixers lose, all the trolls come out saying that, oh, James Harden is the reason. Joel Embiid is not the MVP. And, everyone, the media, social media and everything like that is going to say, oh, Nikola Jokic is the MVP after this game. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, what? If you're looking at Jokic in this, I'm not saying he had a bad game. Joel Embiid dominated him. Joel Embiid made him look foolish. And yes, Jokic hit some shots late, but Jokic was not the difference in this game for Denver, even though everyone's going to say, oh, Jokic is the reason why they won this game. Jokic obviously deserves the MVP. No. Looking at Jokic's stats for this game, in 34 minutes, 22 points. He was a -9 in this game, 8 of 16 from the field, 1 of 3 from deep, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. He had 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals. He was not the difference for Denver. He was nowhere in hell the difference for Denver in this game. It's the fact that, one, your bench gets outscored 48-13 in this game. 2, just not playing defense whatsoever. This team's transition defense is the most worst thing I've seen in my lifetime. The worst. The absolute worst. It's just embarrassing. And even though I think Matisse Thybulle had himself a pretty nice game tonight, just overall, defensively, it just felt like it was off. It was off, and there were so many instances, especially late in the game. Why are we going to Matisse in the corner for a 3? He's not going to hit it. He's not going to hit it in clutch time. He's just not. It just feels like when the team gets energy, it gets sapped out so easily. And you're letting Boogie Cousins go off in that third, fourth quarter transition. It's just, why? Why are we letting Boogie go off? I just don't understand it. I really don't. And Cousins off of the bench, even though he only had 8 points in this game, he had a stretch where he was able to hit his shots. And it was just like, you got 21 points off of the bench from Highland. You got 10 points off of the bench from Green. You got 20 points from Barton, 22 from Jokic. It's just the bench scoring in this game for the Sixers was just goddamn atrocious. Look at their entire bench playing in this game. Danny Green in 14 minutes, goddamn atrocious. I know it's his first game after, getting that laceration on his finger. So I guess you can understand that for why he was so bad shooting it today, but it was just bad. 0 points in 14 minutes, 0 of 5 from the field, 0 of 2 from three-point line. Niang, 8 points in 25 minutes. Yes, I would like to give Niang a break in this game, but when Niang's not going off, the entire bench is just goddamn atrocious. It literally is. There was a sequence in the second quarter going into the half where Embiid got his third foul, and then for some reason, this is a section in the game where Joel Embiid was continuing to dominate. And in this section, when Embiid gets that third foul, Doc elects to take him out and put DeAndre Jordan back in when Jordan just came off the court. Why are we doing this? Why are we taking Embiid off the court? Because the rest of the game, he was barely getting called for fouls. So if Embiid is dominating in that scenario, and it clearly was obvious when Embiid was off the court, the Sixers were getting absolutely dominated. They were getting absolutely dominated. Why are we taking Embiid off the court? Why? Because early on, James Harden wasn't involved, even though he does get involved the rest of the game. It wasn't James Harden's, that point. You know what I mean? But why are we taking Embiid off in that scenario? I just really don't understand. DeAndre Jordan, just a terrible night off of the bench, 12 minutes, 3 points. And he was basically, even though he got 6 boards there, but really nothing. Shake Milton only plays 3 minutes in his, not 3 minutes, 8 minutes in this game, 3 points. And one of those, his only good shot attempt was a 3-pointer. And really no other showcasing from the bench. It was really just your starters and, that last couple of, bench players. So this is the game you have to win. You cannot blow that lead. What was a 19-point lead? You cannot blow that. You just can't. And going towards the end of the game, like literally the last possession, when they go to the free throw line, Denver, he misses one of his shots. Why, Doc Rivers, are we now calling a timeout to set up a play? Because that entire scenario, you're driving it up the court. You go to Niang in the corner, misses the 3. What the fuck is Niang doing? What the fuck is Niang doing trying to getting the board and then trying to toss up another 2? Why are we doing this? Why is that the call that not the call technically. Why are we just winging it at that point? It just felt like we were winging it. It did. Why, Doc Rivers, when you have a timeout left with 14 seconds left on the clock, 14.4 to be exact, because I remember that for some reason. Why aren't we calling a timeout? Why aren't we calling one? Why aren't we setting up a play, getting an inbound pass, and setting up something to happen? Why are we winging it? Why are we rushing it? Why are we going to Niang in the corner? Because he was cold the entire night. Why are we handing it off? I know Niang, the past couple of games, I get it. He was hot. He had the hot hand the past couple of nights, and he's been one of your best bench producers the entire season. But when he is having an off night, why are we going to him wide open in the corner? He was left wide open for a reason, because he was cold. Joel Embiid needs to get the ball, or James Harden needs to get the ball, or even Tyrese Maxey. One of those 3. More likely Joel Embiid, or to try to draw the foul to tie the game up, or James Harden to try something. It felt like everything was forced, everything was rushed, and everything was just sapped out of this team. It really was. And it's really frustrating to see this because it literally just feels like the energy just constantly gets zapped out from this team. It really gets annoying. It really does. Man. Man, oh man, oh man. This team is frustrating. And yes, I know, like I said, with all the trolls and all that crap that, come out only after these types of Sixers losses because they feel like Sixers fans are just for some reason they think Sixers fans are just way overconfident. We watch this team every single night. We know the flaws of this team. We know the issues with this team. We're not saying Joel Embiid and James Harden is an automatic chip. We're not saying that whatsoever. When you have Joel Embiid and James Harden, you can compete with anyone. But we see the flaws with this team. The bench is obviously an issue. The bench is one of the major issues. This team can't defend. They got to outscore you every game. And there are many nights when a lot of guys are struggling to shoot the ball. This was one of those nights. Guys were struggling, and there were a lot of situations and scenarios throughout this game where Denver was going on a lot of runs, and the Sixers could not hit anything. So there are so many issues, and Doc is also one of the issues too. Doc is one of those issues. So there's just so many things going around here to where, and also Matisse Thybulle, even though I believe he had himself a better game tonight, he's also an issue because he's going to have his nights where he cannot score. And this was one of those days late in the game where he was not able to score. He was getting his stuff early. He was. But he wasn't able to contribute everything the rest of the game. Was not. It absolutely was not. So there's a lot of issues with this team. It's not an easy chip. They're still going to compete. They're still going to get into the playoffs. And they're still going to be a threat. It's not going to be easy for this team with the way, they're playing right now. And yes, I do believe it's eventually going to get better, but you got to be cautiously optimistic with this team right now because the flaws, the issues with this team. So it's just, you got to snap out of it. You got to find a way to keep the pace. I can understand the back-to-back. You played in Orlando yesterday, but honestly, I don't find that as an excuse because you were in the game the entire way and you got off to that such of a hot start. Because if you keep that hot start going from the first quarter into the second quarter, and don't let Denver go off, you easily win this game in a blowout. You do. You win this game in a blowout if you keep the hot stretch going from the first to the second quarter, because it completely died off in the second quarter. And that was the issue right there. Because of that gigantic lead you gave yourself in that first, you let it slip away. And it happened once again. Really, it's really getting annoying. It really does. It's frustrating with this team. And yes, there's definitely those people that are going to overreact, completely overreact, saying, oh, we shouldn't have got this much for Harden. Oh, we shouldn't have traded away Steph Curry and DeAndre Drummond. Like, no, this is not one of those issues. This Sixers team was flawed from the beginning, even when they had Andre Drummond and Steph Curry. They were flawed from the beginning. They got way better adding James Harden, but those flaws still stick around because this team is still flawed. They're a better team with James Harden, but still flawed. They have a lot of issues. You saw that tonight. They can't defend. Their bench is terrible. And Doc Rivers sometimes makes mistakes. There you go. There you go. So I see some people in the live feed right now. I'll get to some of your comments right now, since basically that entire recap was, it's done. But it's really frustrating. And the Sixers do have a very tough stretch coming up, looking at their upcoming schedule. So they have a game on Wednesday. They have a game on Friday. So looking at their upcoming schedule, they have a game on Wednesday in Cleveland against the Cavaliers. We beat Cleveland a couple of times, but they're still, they're still a tough team to play against. So the Sixers need to come out and win that game. You got Friday at home in Philadelphia against Dallas. You got Sunday at home against Toronto, which is an 8:30 game, which is weird. But then you follow that up. So 3 straight home games after Cleveland. Got Dallas, Toronto, and you got back-to-back on that Monday against the Miami Heat. And then you go out to the West Coast to play the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Suns. So still a very tough stretch for this team. Find a way to win games. Snap out of this tough stretch. Snap out of it. Because, yes, teams go through stretches of when they struggle. They do. And good teams go through stretches where they struggle. You got to find your way out of it. You got to find your way out of it. It's a frustrating loss. It is. Learn from it. You got to learn from it. I feel like I've said too many times this year, there are losses where you got to throw in the trash. This is not one of those losses. You got to keep this loss and look at it. You do. So I see some people in the live feed, so they're going to bring up some of your comments here. How you going, Frankie? How you doing, brother? So, yeah, tough loss. Embiid, yeah, Joel Embiid went off tonight. That was definitely no way in hell that Jokic had a much better game. Joel Embiid dominated the entire day. How far do you think do you have the Sixers going in the playoffs? How far do you think they'll actually go? Right now, like, this team can compete. We know with James Harden and Joel Embiid, this team is still going to be a threat. Depending on how far they go, that's still to be determined at this point. They could be a first-round exit team. They could be a second-round exit. They can go to the third round. They can go to the finals. This team right now, I really don't have a gauge on their ceiling, but I know they're going to compete regardless. At best, right now, I'll still say they're a second-round exit team until they prove it they can get to the third round. That's what I'll say right here. Channel name says GG to the Nuggets. Yeah, Nuggets played a good game. This is not taking away anything from the Nuggets. They played a good game, and they took advantage of the Sixers' flaws. They did. They definitely did. Mr. 89, same thing. GG to Denver. Embiid outplayed the Joker, and Danny Green with 0 points. Yep, definitely right there. How much can you expect Embiid to play throughout the regular season? He doesn't have any help. We are asking so much of him. It feels like he can lead to an injury. Still saying Doc is not good. Yeah, I agree with you there. Even though, like, right now, Joel Embiid, I kind of felt like he needed the day off yesterday against Orlando, but I guess at this point, Embiid, like, he's not the same player that he was a couple of years ago, where he needed more conditioning. He was constantly getting injured, or, he was out of shape. This is probably the best in shape possible Joel Embiid has been in his entire career. So he wants to go out there and play. Let him go out there and play. But I also do feel like there are nights where he does need, some days off. I kind of do feel that way. The same thing. Yeah, Thibault is our best defender, but cannot produce offensively. I definitely agree. That is obvious right there. And also the highlight with Jason Kelsey's national anthem. That is a fantastic Philly moment. IMO. Yeah, that was hilarious. That was very hilarious seeing Jason Kelsey perform the national anthem. But yeah, it's very frustrating seeing, some ways in these big games, like, even though tonight wasn't like one of those scenarios where they came out slow or just came out very, quiet. Like, there are some big games where this team does not look fully prepared for. They just don't. I'm not sure if that's like an attitude issue or if that's a coaching issue. Like, that's something that still remains to see, but this game was still very frustrating indeed. and they got to find a way to snap out of this little slump that they're in. So very frustrating. Joel Embiid had a good game, but a lot of flaws with this team really stood out. It really did. It's frustrating. It really is. But you got to find a way to get out of it. You definitely do. So, what are your thoughts on this video, everyone? What are your thoughts on this game, Joel Embiid performance? How frustrated are you with this team right now? Are you overreacting? Are you still remaining realistic with this team? So, don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section down below. I like to see those as always. Do not forget to drop a like on this video. Also, don't forget to check out the Painted Lines, which I'm a part of. Their links are down in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out the links to BrodesMedia, the Flyer.pod merch website, and also Flyers Nitty Gritty. All the good stuff is down in the description below. Don't forget to check those out. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the most important thing you could do is hit that sub button. I will greatly appreciate that. And also use the code TTPSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And maybe tomorrow, really depending on, since there's nothing tomorrow, maybe I'll do some more Phillies talk. Hopefully they do making signing, because there were a lot more big moves with baseball today in terms of trades. So hopefully the signing stuff kicks off tomorrow, because I really want to talk Phillies more. So definitely maybe look out for a Phillies stream tomorrow. So thank you everyone that was here for joining, and I will see you next time.